Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe on another big Thursday. And a bigger Thursday, we have former Tennessee running back Jabari Juice Davis going to be joining us on the show tonight to talk a little college football, along with a little pro football and a lot else. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing good. And yeah, we're going to do a little crossover show tonight with college football because Juice, Jabari Davis, is getting married this weekend. So he couldn't make the man coverage show this weekend. So I figured, well, let's send you off. Let's have you on the Safety and the Sportswriter. Let's get our questions asked and talk to him and send him off with a bang.
And couldn't ask for a better week when you consider what just happened down there in Knoxville. I mean, the place must still be buzzing down there, huh?
It's crazy, man. I haven't seen it like this in a long time. I'm just happy for all the Vols fans. I'm a Buckeye first and foremost, but I came down here and I lived here for a long time and cheered for the Vols for a while. So I've got a lot of friends and family that are Vols fans, and so I'm happy for everybody. Everybody's been long suffering up here, waiting for a winner, and man, they got one. I'm sorry, and I'm not an expert per se, but I know a lot about college football, and I got to tell you, it starts up top. It starts with the administration, and then it goes to the coach, and then it goes to the players, and the players. It starts with the leaders, the guy that are the best players, like the quarterback, Hendon Hooker, or whoever is leading the charge on the team. Those guys have to be in communication with their coaches. And Tennessee looks like finally has the right coach. And they have the right athletic director. And Danny White and him and Heupel knew each other and had a good relationship before Tennessee. As they were at Central Florida together, and they've got a great relationship here. So kudos to Danny White and kudos to Josh Heupel for doing a hell of a job. I could not believe what I was seeing on Saturday, sitting on the 50-yard line, 20 rows up, just watching the Vols offense dismantle a Nick Saban-led defense.
It was a great game. I mean, you can't ask for a better game than it was, and it meant a lot because – you can't sit there and say, well, Alabama wasn't Alabama. I mean, they took Alabama's best punches and kept coming back. That's what it means. I mean, you want to beat the team at their best. It wasn't that you couldn't sit there and say their quarterback wasn't playing, this guy wasn't playing. They did have a lot of penalties, more than Alabama usually does. But that kind of, that speaks to Tennessee's new way of doing things. I mean, they didn't get involved in penalties. They did all the right things. They played within themselves, and they answered the bell every time. And I tell you, you couldn't help but think. I was at home watching it, and Gary Danielson, kind of compared that last drive, those couple of passes, to what we saw with Kansas City and the Bills last year in the playoffs, and he was right. I mean.
Yeah.
A
little bit more time. They had around 30 seconds as opposed to 13, but I agree. It was very similar, and I can't remember a game that I've seen like that was so fun to watch, and just two good teams battling. And I've got to give Tennessee some extra credit because I have to admit when that fumble occurred. Late in the second half, Tennessee had been ahead the entire game,
right.
Been leading the entire way. And then they had that, mishandling of the snap. I can't remember exactly whether it was the quarterback's fault or the running back's fault, but regardless, the ball got on the ground, Alabama scooped it, scored. And I was like, oh man, this is bad.
You know what game it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Rose Bowl, Texas against USC with Vince Young.
Yeah. Well, I was like, this is, this could get into their psyche because they've been ahead the entire game. They've been ahead by multiple scores. Now, all of a sudden, when Alabama kicked the extra point after that scoop and score, they were down by a touchdown. And I was like, this could be bad. And then, boom, 2 plays later, they score again, and the rest is history. So great job by Tennessee, not letting any mistakes or things like that get to them. They stayed the course and kept to the game plan.
And I mean, I was just looking this over before we went on. I mean, there are 9 undefeated teams in major college football. There's 11 with only 1 loss. And some of the names are ones you don't expect. Tennessee didn't expect to be undefeated. TCU undefeated. Ole Miss is undefeated. UCLA undefeated. Michigan's in there. I'll say they weren't expected to be undefeated. Syracuse, I'm not really going to count Syracuse right now because, they are not exactly playing. They play the ACC, but I haven't really looked at their schedule up close. But then you have other guys like Wake Forest with one loss, K-State with one loss, Cincinnati's been good, Illinois with one loss, Tulane with one loss. That's a lot of good teams with no losses or one loss.
Yeah, I got to be honest. The biggest shocker to me is TCU. New coach replacing a legend who they erected a statue of him outside the stadium and then fired him halfway through the season the same year. So that was kind of crazy to me. And I was like, man, this may set their program back a ways. But Joey McGuire's come in and done a tremendous job. And they didn't even know who their quarterback was going to be. They kind of decided on Max Dugan at the last second. And wow, great decision. He's been tearing it up ever since. Watching that Oklahoma game where they dropped 47 or 44 points on him at halftime, I was just like, whoa, TCU's for real. So I'm interested to see if they can keep it going.
Yeah, and you got Lincoln Riley. You see his effect on USC already. Oregon's been good for a while, but there's a lot of teams that have been hanging around. A lot of teams that are their first time in. So we'll see if they're who the real ones are and who are the imposters. And as we go along with that, little pro football too. While we're waiting for Jabari to get here, Giants and Jets. We talked about the Jets in last week, and I was kind of being critical, and you told me to wait off, and man, did they show up against Green Bay. And you got to start thinking that both these teams right now are kind of playoff type teams right now.
Yeah, playoffs. Playoffs? No, I don't know. I don't know, man. I've got to be honest. It seems like the entire culture, at MetLife Stadium for both the Jets and the Giants has changed. Robert Saleh's come in. Brian Daboll's come in for the Giants, and they've just instilled a whole new culture. And if you think about, especially the Jets, I guess, and the Giants too, but more so the Jets, they've got so many young guys on that team. Hell, half of them weren't even born, through the suffering years of the Jets. They don't know anything about, the Jets curse or the Jets demise. All they know is what they know. And they just know good football. A lot of them have come from, successful programs like Breece Hall, the running back from Iowa State, and Garrett Wilson, the running back or the wide receiver from Ohio State. These guys just know winning, and they know playing good football, and they're doing it. They got Michael Carter, the other running back from UNC, Corey Davis, CJ Uzuma, who was a part of that Super Bowl team with the Bengals. And, Zach Wilson isn't really doing anything to blow you away stats-wise, but he's not throwing in picks. He's not fumbling the ball too much. And, he's helping the team win. And that's what it's all about. And, I picked the Jets first because that's kind of my team, but the Giants too. They're doing the same thing. I've been really impressed, since day one. You remember week one, I told you, I said, this is going to be a whole new Giants team when they went for 2 in that first game, and they got the 2-point conversion and they won. He was just like, we're going to win games. We're going to play to win instead of trying to, not lose. And that, I feel like that's kind of what both these teams did for many years.
And the thing about the Giants is Dable is not worrying about what he doesn't have or what Daniel Jones isn't. He's playing to his strengths. He's giving him a chance to do what he can do well. Instead of, trying to teach him a system, he's kind of reinventing his system to fit what Jones can do right now. And it's working. And
it certainly is.
And I'll tell you, I keep coming back to Wink Martindale, man. He's made me a believer. This guy is a defensive coach. A lot of people get reputations, but a lot of them, come because they have great athletes. After watching this guy up close, after watching him in Baltimore for so many years, when he overcame injuries or didn't have the right players or whatever, this guy knows how to put together a defensive game plan and make it work with what he's got.
There's no doubt. And I keep watching the Ravens cough up these big leads. And I'm just like, wow, I wonder if they wish they still had, Wink back there calling the defense, because their defense doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like the Ravens defense of old. Kind of looks like a bunch of guys out there trying to not lose games, like we were talking about with the Jets and the Giants before. And, they couldn't get him out of town fast enough. And, Harbaugh is left standing there, and he's the only one left. So I guess we got to put a lot of the blame on him, because some of the clock management, some of the decision making at the end of these games falls squarely back on Harbaugh's shoulders.
And I think they've come to depend on Jackson pulling a miracle too often now. I think they really got to get back to the basics and realize this is a team game, and they can't depend on him bailing him out every day. And the other surprising one of last week, Pittsburgh over Tampa Bay. And there's you were a football player at a higher level than me. You went and played at college. You tell me this. I mean, at what cost is Tom Brady coming to this team now? With the distractions, with all the press he gets is one thing, but not practicing on Wednesday, going to Bob Kraft's wedding on Friday. I mean, how many teams would? I know we don't know the amount of times that these players maybe go out at night, or we don't know on certain occasions maybe they let players go to their brother's wedding or their sister's wedding and their daughter, whatever. But I mean, it was a bad look.
Well, you can't sit here and rip on Urban Meyer for staying behind and, not flying back with the team, and then give Tom Brady a free pass when he's not even practicing a couple of days leading up to the game. He's out, sipping champagne, boozing up with Bob Kraft and his 18-year-old wife.
His old owner.
Yeah, it's not even the owner of his current team. It's the owner of the team he used to play for. And, I got to be honest, it looks at times like their offense is just out of sync. And, I can't help but think that it potentially has something to do with him, being absent for several weeks training camp and not showing up to practice. I mean, if you decide you're going to come back and you're going to play, then come back. But it's kind of like he's got 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
Right.
And that's not really fair to this team that's still stacked on defense and still has some of the best wide receivers in all of football. And you got this quarterback who's fighting with his wife and, going to Bobby Kraft's wedding and doing whatever the hell he wants except winning football games.
Look at how you and I tore apart Kyrie Irving for only playing on the road last year.
Yeah.
How selfish we thought that was. Well, first of all, quarterbacks in practice wear that orange jersey so they don't get hit, okay? He can't practice on look, if he's got personal problems and he wants to save his marriage, go. Save your marriage, man. You got more money than you'll ever need in your life. You're going to the Hall of Fame on a free pass. I mean, you set every record there is. Go. But it's unfair to the other players that are there sweating their butts off, day after day in practice, to see that their leader, their quarterback, their GOAT is not there on Wednesday, and then decides, hey guys, I'm going to Bob Kraft's wedding because I don't feel like I have to worry about practice right now. I mean, it's just, and then he's screaming at these guys on the sideline. I'm waiting for the day one of the guys just stands up and pops him.
Well, I sure as hell would if I was one of those linemen, Ryan Jensen or Tristan Wirfs or whoever, and I'm sitting there listening to the guy who hasn't been there in 4 days screaming at me, telling me what I'm doing wrong. I would be livid. And I guess, he does garner some respect with the 7 rings that he's got. But yeah, I that is what really blew me away. You're the guy that isn't playing that great. The team is suffering. And instead of trying to bring the team together and, be the guy that gets everybody rallied, to get back to winning, he's screaming at everybody and blaming them for losing. And that to me is just not only bad optics, but I think that's bad football.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it just drives me crazy. Well, we got Jabari Davis coming up in a little while whenever he gets here, but we'll go back to a little college football because another game I was watching on Saturday, and we talked about this before the season. I'm still perplexed on how Sean Clifford is starting a quarterback for Penn State. I don't see how that coach, how he can look at himself and go, he's got to realize he does not have a team that's going to win the national championship. He's got to realize that. He doesn't have a team that's going to win the Big Ten championship. And I guess Clifford maybe is his best option at quarterback this year, and I would agree with it if he had a team that I thought could win the Big Ten or win the national championship. But right now, I don't see a reason to have him there. And again, on Saturday, he's an average to good college quarterback. I don't even see why he's there trying to play up for the pros, because he's not going to be a high draft choice. So it's a waste of time for him and a waste of time for the team, as far as I'm concerned. What do you think?
I mean, he was not good this past Saturday, but let's be honest. I mean, they were playing for a Big Ten championship this past weekend. I mean, they were 5-0, 2-0 in the conference, going into the Big House to play Michigan. So there was a lot on the line in this game. So I don't know whether you can pull him before the game, but at the start of the season, I thought if this Drew Aller kid is for real, I think you might want to think about starting him. I don't think you could have done it right before this game. But yeah, I mean, Sean Clifford is who he is. He was 7 of 19 for 120 yards, no touchdowns. Now he ran it 6 times for 74 yards. But the real thing to me, the biggest problem to me in this game was James Franklin's defense. I mean, you give up 55 carries for 418 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground. 2 guys ran for 165 yards or more. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards both had over 165 yards rushing. That is absolutely ridiculous. You know what the strength of this team is. You know what Michigan's going to try and do. They're going to run the damn ball, and you can't. I mean, you know what's coming, and you can't even come close to stopping it. That to me is an indictment on A, this defense, and B, the coaching and the game planning going into Michigan game.
Well, my whole point is, I'm sorry, I understand what their record is, and as the old Parcellism says, you are what your record says you are. But going into this game, I don't look at them as a challenge to winning the Big Ten. I just don't. I see too many holes there. I don't see enough playmakers. They got some young running backs who look like they're going to be good. But for me, for Franklin, he should be looking in the mirror and going, okay, I want to be 9-3. I want to be 8-4, but I want to get ready for next year and put this team in a position where it can compete. Because if he keeps doing this, he keeps thinking there, he's ridden the Sean Clifford course as long as he can ride him. It's kind of like, he was a good quarterback at Notre Dame, but Ian Book was not a great quarterback. Somewhere along the line, if you're going to beat Ohio State, if you're going to beat Michigan, you have to get a top quarterback in that conference. And he doesn't have it, and he's not developed. This young kid, he's not developing, which is I'm just sitting there. I was watching it going, I understand he was undefeated, but reality is what reality is. That's not a great Penn State team.
I'm just saying that you can't make the quarterback change right before this game. My point was at the beginning of the season, if you know what you are and you know what you've got with Sean Clifford, and then this kid comes in and he's any at all better, then you roll with him.
Or even as good.
Or as good. Yeah, I'm saying if he's more talented, is my point, and could potentially get you to a higher ceiling as you go throughout the season. I think then you throw him in and you roll with him. But they made the decision at the beginning of the year to stick with Clifford for better or for worse, and he is what he is. You know that for you to win this game, you've got to stop the Michigan running attack. And not only did they not stop it, they'd still be running if the damn clock hadn't run out. I mean, 444 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, I thought James Franklin was supposed to be some sort of defensive guru, and
he's
that
not
was
guruing.
He's not guruing nothing, man. That was ridiculous, and it's bad enough when you know what's coming, but it's even worse when you're standing there watching it and can't do anything about it. So I got to be honest. I'm I don't know how good Penn State really is. We'll see as the season goes on. I don't think they're that great, but you have to give this team some credit. And I can't believe I'm even saying this, but Michigan does have a good running game, and they have been getting it done up to this point. Now, the first 3 games were a farce, playing Colorado State, Hawaii, and UConn. You can throw those games out the window,
right.
But they have been, they squeaked by against Maryland. They beat Iowa pretty handily, and then they handled their business with Penn State. So, good for them. We'll see how it goes this weekend against Michigan State, who they've struggled with in the past few years.
Well, East Lansing, those people get up for it. I mean, this is their bowl. I mean, they live to get in the way of the Wolverines doing anything. So yeah, they're going to have a team that's going to be hyped because they just don't like being the second-class citizens in the state. It's like, as great a team as Michigan State, or as great as legacy as Michigan State's had in its past, it's still second to Michigan in the state. So
yeah, that game isn't this weekend. It's actually next weekend, but that's that's Michigan's next game. So that's why I was talking about it. But yeah, that game's going to be in Ann Arbor, and Michigan State struggled, and this is a team now that's 3-4. And you think back to last year when everything was going right, all the transfers that Mel Tucker brought in year 1, all of them were working out. Kenneth Walker III was running people over. The receivers were getting it done. The defense was playing great. And they were just exceeding all expectations. And bam, Michigan State decides to lock up Mel Tucker for the foreseeable future and gives him a $100 million contract. And man, I wonder if they're worried about that now, because this doesn't even look like the same type of team in year 2. So I don't know. I like Mel Tucker as a coach. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a very good football coach. But I was just a little bit, thrown off, I guess, by handing him all that cash after 1 year in town.
I think the worst thing about a Michigan State situation is, like I just talked about, they're the second-class citizens in Michigan. They're kind of an afterthought in the Big Ten. Not really an afterthought, but I mean, they're not on the level of Ohio State. They're not on the level of Michigan. They're not on the level of Penn State. Even when Penn State is not really Penn State anymore. So I think when you get a coach that you kind of believe in, and you're at Michigan State, they seem to want to hang on to their coaches for a long period of time and roll their punches with it. So I think that's why they invested the money in it. Will it work out? I don't know. And speaking of coaches who right now are under the pressure, our boy Marcus Freeman down in South Bend, my God. Stanford's been reeling for a while, and to lose to Stanford at home at 3-3.
Hey, I'm the one that took all the heat from all these people yelling at me because I was a little bit critical of him. All I said, I love Marcus Freeman. He's a Buckeye. He's from Columbus. He played for Ohio State. Love the guy. That being said, he'd never been a head coach in his entire life. Okay. Mm-hmm. First ever outing was in the bowl game against Oklahoma State. They're up by 3 touchdowns, rolling along. Halftime comes around. Well, Jim Knowles, who we know from watching him at Ohio State this year and watching him at Oklahoma State last year, made a lot of adjustments and is a great defensive coach. And the mullet Mike Gundy made a bunch of adjustments. Well, Marcus Freeman didn't make any. And they ended up losing that football game. And then we saw, week 1 against Ohio State, they came with a really good game plan in the first half. And then the second half, Ohio State made adjustments and he didn't. And we've continually seen this as we've gone on. And, everybody didn't, all these Notre Dame fans couldn't get Brian Kelly out the door fast enough. They hated that guy. They wanted him gone. They were so glad that Marcus Freeman's here. Well, I hope you're happy now because Brian Kelly won a lot of football games there. And whether you like him or not, I mean, he's an asshole. Let's call a spade a spade. Brian Kelly's an asshole. But you know what? It's not a popularity contest. It's a win games contest. And he won a lot of games for Notre Dame. And I get it. He was the one that wanted to leave, but all these Notre Dame fans were so happy about it that he was gone. I'm not sure they're happy now.
I think, the whole thing about Notre Dame is like Notre Dame fans are like Yankee fans. They're like Dallas Cowboy fans. They think everybody wants to play for their team. Everybody wants to coach their team. And they can't believe it when anybody says no. They get insulted. They feel like there's something wrong with you that you don't want to come to Notre Dame and be that and be the coach. You don't want to be, you don't want to take that on. And there is a stress point to that job there. I mean, you watch those guys when they leave, they hardly ever look like they did coming in, except for Lou Holtz, who always looked ugly to me. But anyways, it's I'm not going to backtrack on it. I thought I want to see this guy succeed. I agree with you though, and it's a great point. To have this as your first coaching job is asking a lot. It's a lot.
There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on him, and this is a program that expects to win every game. They expect to win every game every night. I mean, it's like what I talk about Ohio State and Columbus. If they lose a game, there's questions to be answered, and people, the Ohio State fans, they want to know why. And I feel like Notre Dame's very similar to that they want to win every game. Now, how Notre Dame gets to handpick their schedule and choose who they're playing each time, but they still are expected to win every single game, and to never ever have been a head coach and then get thrust into this position where they were one game away from playing for the college football national championship last year, and then you're supposed to equal that or do better in your first ever coaching job. I mean, it's a tough order, and I feel bad for Marcus because I don't think he's fallen on his face. I mean, I really don't. No. I just think he's in a little bit over his head with all these expectations in year one without having a true playmaker. I mean, who's the big playmaker on offense? I mean, Michael Mayer, the tight end, is their, he's their go-to guy, and he's a tight end. So, I mean, who's the quarterback? Who's the running back? Who's the wide receiver that really scares you on this team? I don't know who it is.
Well, I've said this. I said this even in the Brian Kelly era. I mean, Brian Kelly chased quarterbacks away from that program, and I think that's a big reason why they couldn't get someone there. But they have a new guy there, and they have an ex-Notre Dame quarterback calling the plays. So you'd think they can recruit, and hopefully they will recruit and get a big-time quarterback, because I don't understand, like you said, Notre Dame's on TV all the time. You're going to be, if you're in Notre Dame, you're going to be, if you're a good player, you're going to be up for those postseason awards. You're going to be looked at in the draft. You're going to have a lot of access that other teams don't have. And the other thing I wanted to say about Marcus Freeman is, along with, the things that go with Notre Dame and the job, is I think teams still, even though they're not the Notre Dame of old, winning national championships and producing Heisman Trophy winners, there's an inner arrogance for the Fighting Irish that teams still like knocking them off.
Yeah.
And, so I think they still do get everybody's best Saturday punch, no matter what.
No, that's true. But, I mean, getting Marshall's best punch and getting Stanford's best punch isn't the same as getting, Bama's best punch or Georgia's best punch, like the Vols are seeing here in the SEC. So, he should be able to overcome what he's getting from Marshall. Right. I mean, Marshall hasn't even fared that well after their big win in South Bend. And let's be honest, Stanford, although I love Coach Shaw, they've struggled all year long, and that was a big win for them to hopefully get themselves back on track.
Yeah, that's one. I'll tell you, that's one guy I feel sorry for, and I'd love to see him recover. I mean, it's been a while since Coach Shaw was able to work his magic out there with Stanford, and they've been suffering for a couple of years now, or almost 5 or 6 years. They haven't been the same Stanford. So, hopefully I'd like to see him get back on track with because he was a great guy and a great career. He's had a great career out there. and he could have left a couple of times and didn't, which I give him credit for. So,
Well, this early recruiting period is killing Coach Shaw and Stanford. They're not allowed to sign those guys in December, and so all these other teams are going out, and I mean, a lot of people are signing everybody right there at that early first signing period, and they're getting everybody on board. They're signing up everybody they possibly can, and then that traditional recruiting period in February is kind of an afterthought these days. And so that's a major disadvantage for programs like Stanford that aren't able to even sign those guys at that time because they're more focused on these kids' academics.
Yeah, I mean they've had. It's been a while since Christian McCaffrey was kind of in the Heisman running out there for Stanford, and that's probably the last time they were really on anybody's radar. So.
Yeah, I mean, they had a couple of decent teams with Bryce Love and some of those guys after that. They still had some pretty decent teams there. But, since the last 3 or 4 years, since the recruiting season has changed so dramatically, that's what's really affected them, in my opinion. And then also, the NIL. I mean, the Stanford athletic boosters are just not the same as what you're going to get down in A&M or down in Austin or down in Miami. I mean, there's just not people handing these kids checks to come play football at Stanford, whereas some of these other schools, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. So let's get back to a little Alabama action right now. I mean, I'm sure that Coach Saban was not exactly the nicest guy to be around in practice this week. But what was your impression of what you saw with Alabama on Saturday?
I was really surprised, honestly, to see the defense struggle as much as they did. I mean, I thought that Tennessee would score. I thought they would get some points. I predicted the game to be 28-24 Tennessee. So I did have the points, the differential about right, and I did have the correct winner, but I was way off on the scoring margin, and I just didn't anticipate the Tennessee offense to be able to go up and down the field like that with such ease. And my biggest takeaway was Jalen Hyatt, 5 touchdowns. You're going to let the same guy get behind you running down the middle of the field wide open 5 times. I mean, I've never seen an instance where an Alabama defense gets torched like that from one dude over and over and over and over and over again 5 times. I mean, I just, for the life of me, couldn't understand. I mean, change the coverage up, put somebody on that guy full time. I don't know. I mean, go into prevent, do something to where that guy doesn't get behind you for his 5th touchdown. I mean, he finished the game with, I think he had 6 catches total. He had 207 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's ludicrous.
That's not Saban-like.
No, that is not what we're used to see. Now, at the same time, the way that they've been winning over and over again in Alabama is just almost unsustainable. I can't believe how many seasons they've gone undefeated and lost maybe 1 game. It's ridiculous. So losing 1 game, I'm not going to start cashing in my Bama stock. I mean, I think they've still got a chance to have a good season, but that defense was nothing like what I've seen in the past.
All right, we got Jabari Davis coming up right now. Let's bring him on in. Jabari, how you doing?
How y'all doing, man?
Doing good.
Just got done eating dinner, man. So,
hey, that's where we're heading. That's where we're heading next, man. That sounds good. How you been, Juice? You enjoy that game this weekend, bud?
Absolutely loved it, man. One of the best moments of my life.
It was unreal, man. We've been talking about it a little bit here, and we got a couple of the game notes here. That 52 points was the most points scored on Alabama since 1907. How in the hell was Tennessee able to go up and down the field like that, Juice?
Man, when you got one of the best offensive coordinators in football, it's easy, man. I think utilizing our playmakers. When you got a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback, it takes a lot of pressure off you as a play caller because you know he's going to get it done. When you have some of the best wide receivers in the country, it takes a lot of pressure off you as a play caller. When you have one of the best offensive lines in the country, man, people haven't gotten our offensive line a lot of credit. To me, they're just as big and a key to that victory as Jalen Hyatt. I mean, that offensive line put on an absolute clinic last weekend. And when you have all of those things going in your favor, and defensively, you got guys that are playing like warriors out there, getting to the quarterback, giving their all. Even, we had some big plays on third downs that we didn't defend, but it's all about how you finish the game in the end, man, and we're able to capitalize and have one of the most historic wins in Tennessee history.
Talk about Josh Heupel and what he's meant to the Volunteers coming in and kind of straightening the ship a little bit. No one, they weren't really on anybody's radar, but right now they're on people's radar. What has he meant to this program?
He's meant everything, man. A guy like him, like I said on another radio show or podcast, dogs recognize dogs. I mean, I was already high on him when he got hired because I remember him being a Heisman Trophy finalist back when I was in high school, and I read about him and saw his resume, and he was more proven for the head coaching position than any other coach that we'd had. Yeah. If you look at his resume of success as a player and as a coach, and when you have a guy that has been through those wars, you get a tremendous respect to him, and you look at him and you value him differently. So he's just been a great person that we needed to get this fan base back excited, to get the former players back excited. A guy that doesn't really say a whole lot. As Tennessee, we're used to, a lot of the cliches and the hype talk and the selling and things like that. But, he was hired to simply destroy defensive coordinators and put together some of the best play calling and best plays that you can execute in college football, and he's doing that. I mean, he is an assassin when it comes to that tempo offense.
Yeah, it's hard to defend. I mean, even teams like Bama that have a good defense, I mean, they're just not much they can do with it when they get rolling and they start getting these guys gassed. They can't switch them out. And, there's no cliches like you mentioned, Juice. There's no brick by brick being thrown out by this guy, man. He's just all about, getting the kids to buy in and getting victories. And we saw that last year. In year one, they started to look like a different team, and there started to be kids believing that they could win games. I just want to get your thoughts, Juice, on why this program struggled for so long. I mean, that we had a slew of coaches. We had we had good players, but just never was able to put it together. And I just want to get your thoughts on why you think it took so long to get back.
Well, any organization or any business will fail when you don't have the top people at your best interest. If you don't have a solid foundation, and if you don't have the great support system, and you don't have people that understand that football is the heartbeat to every major program in the SEC. If you can clean up the football program, everybody else will become successful. And when you have people in the administrative world that don't understand that, then you're going to have a lot of problems. So as soon as we get everything cleaned up on the administrative side, we got a chancellor that believed in the football program. We got a AD that believed in the football program, even though much respect to Coach Farmer. He's my former coach. And I know he was going to do a great job. He got thrown under, in a lot of stuff with Coach Pruitt, so don't want to say anything negative about him. But, whenever you have bad foundation, it's going to cause a lot of problems. So that's what it was. And, so much mismanaged money, giving guys raises that even did, these coaches didn't even deserve those raises.
No.
Haven't proven anything. Just a total cluster cuss word when it came to that. And you see the collapse of the football program. And when you can't have that solid foundation, man, everything else is going to struggle. So that's what we've been dealing with the past 15 years, man. It's been everything. And I would say, that leaks down to the coaches, to the players. People don't value it the same like they used to. Players leaving, coaches leaving. Coaches don't value coaching college football anymore. They're looking for the money. So when we did have some good coaches, they came in 2 or 3 years, they were out.
Yep.
So college football has just changed, man. And you have people that aren't Tennessee people. They're just treating this organization or treating this as just like another job and not family. So, we got a lot of VFL blood in the building now, and they're going to do what's right to keep us rolling like we're doing now.
When you look at this year, there's a lot. We were talking about it before you joined us. A lot of teams, unexpected teams having success. Kansas got off to a good start. Tulane's undefeated. You got TCU undefeated. You knew USC was going to get better with Lincoln Riley going out there. But there's a lot of teams you didn't expect. You talked about the coaches and how they're not staying in one place. Do you think maybe this will settle the landscape if these teams continue to have these kind of winning records and maybe can get back and recruit the players they kind of want? Because I think sometimes they move on because they can't recruit the players.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as long as we keep winning, you get that job security that you need as a coach. Hold on for a second. There we go. This time on a 32. Unfortunately, times are different. Like when I played, man, you got guys that coach 7-8 years at a program, even longer than that. A lot of these head coaches would stay. But as long as you're winning, man, you keep that job security. So it will influence a lot of coaches to buy in and try to build something special here. So that is a huge part of it. And when it comes to recruiting, I know as a former recruit over 20 years ago, you look for stability. You want to go somewhere where the coach is going to be there for the next 4 or 5 years, because how it plays a huge role when you don't have that coach there that recruited you, that met your family, that knows your story, that knows, what your motivation is and what you aspire to be. And a new guy could come in and disrupt everything and really mess your game up and your mindset up if he's not having that connection with you. Like, I'm a part of like, I know what it's like. My senior year at UT, we had a different coach, came in as a running back coach, and, we had a lot of different problems, but we end up straightening everything out. So coaches are very important.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And this football's changed so much, with the recruiting, with the new transfer portal and the ability to, switch schools and jump around. It's a whole new landscape. But I think that this coaching staff has got their heads right in the sense that they know what they're trying to build and what they're trying to do with this program. And I think that's one of the reasons that they've had so much success. And they've gotten over the hurdles, man. They beat Florida. They beat Bama. And I think these kids are believing. What is your expectation moving forward with this team? I mean, obviously we got Bama out of the way, but now we got Georgia. We got some other teams. I mean, there's no easy game in the SEC. So what do you feel like is going to happen the rest of the way, Juice?
I think we can control our own destiny, man. We just got to keep doing what we've been doing over these last couple of weeks that has made us very successful. Just keep controlling our destiny. Keep our eyes focused on getting to Atlanta for the SEC championship. Make sure that we're staying focused. Make sure that we are playing as a team. Make sure that we are giving everything that we have to every opponent and that we respect every opponent. Like this weekend, even though it's UT Martin, a lot of people are still talking about Alabama, which I am as well, like everybody else, because we're still celebrating. And you have the privilege to celebrate. I told another show, like, hey, I'm showing my ass all week. I'm still posting pictures. I'm about to light up another cigar tonight. I might replay the game and just celebrate again this weekend after the UT Martin game. But we can do that. But these players have to stay focused. One thing that you don't want to see is for us to lose focus, get caught up in the hype, get caught up in the press clippings in the media, and all of a sudden we lose a game that we have no business losing to because of us not doing what we need to do as far as taking care of business. So as long as we keep playing with that mindset of win by any means, and we have that unstoppable attitude, and we're playing like a team, man. The Georgia game is going to be a really good test for us. But like I said, right now, man, I got Tennessee versus the world, and I got us playing, hopefully, for another big title. Number one. And if, we'll see how it goes in Atlanta. But like Coach Former used to say, right now, let's get to Atlanta. Everything right now is about getting to Atlanta. Then we can control what we can control, and the rest will happen. If it's BCS, if it's national championship hopes, whatever it is, but let's control what we can do.
Juice, I want to ask you a question because we were just talking about this early in the show. I was very critical about Penn State starting Sean Clifford. I don't know how much you watch Penn State, but to me, Sean Clifford is just an average college quarterback. And like I was talking to Nate, Nate was saying, he was disagreeing with me a little bit about it. And I wanted to get your aspect as a former player that, to my aspect is I don't think Penn State really has a chance to win the Big Ten. But they were undefeated coming in this game, as Nate pointed out. So you got to play to win. My question is, when you're a player on a team like that and you got it Sean Clifford and you kind of know what he is, but, would you rather see him than go with the freshman and build for the future? Or what would be your aspect for it?
We got to do what's been working, man. You got to do what's been working. I'm all about playing freshmen. I'm all about playing guys and getting a good change of pace. But sometimes at that quarterback position, that's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
The quarterback position in college football is one of the hardest jobs in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And if, you don't want to put a lot of pressure on a guy, especially in the middle of the season and going into November where you got a lot of those big games coming up and you got to have a lot of experience in those big games to feel comfortable. To be comfortable and have that confidence with some of the guys with more experience. So I understand where you're coming from and I understand what they're trying to do. I would probably do the same thing as a coach, having my guy that has had more experience in those moments because I have more trust in him just putting in a true freshman right now.
Yeah, you don't want to wreck the kid by throwing him out there in front of 110,000 in his first game, man. You want to bring him along slowly, but
that happened to me my freshman year, man. Backing up Travis Stevens and playing in the swamp. Travis Stevens got hurt on a run and they threw me in and I was scared to death. I just knew I was going to fumble and lose the game. But hey, I said a quick prayer, God, please don't let me drop the ball. God, please get me in the end zone. And God answered my prayers, man.
There's no doubt. Well, Juice, hey, before we get you out of here, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, man, with the Legends of Tennessee and all that. Just tell everybody a little bit about what you got going on now with helping with the camps and everything.
Thank you, man. The Legends of Tennessee is a nonprofit organization ran by former Vols mixed with a few current Vols. We do everything from football camps in the off season to mental health workshops to life skills symposiums to NIL opportunities with the current guys. And we travel all over the state of Tennessee just trying to make a difference, trying to educate, inspire, and motivate kids to be successful student athletes. And we give them our stories of, things we had to overcome as young kids and teaching them just the right way to do this thing. I think as a young kid now, you need those mentors in the community. You need those coaches in the community. You need those father figures to help you go in the right direction when everybody else is going left, and the world wants you to do what's wrong. You got to have people in the community that's going to tell you how to do it the right way, in the
Yep.
successful way, in the clean way, so you can keep your character high and always value every opportunity, how to have respect for your elders, respect for the people in your community that love and care about you, your coaches, your parents. And we're just giving them our stories of what it takes to get to that level. No matter if it's in football or in life, you need some type of help. And especially, with the mental health thing that's going on right now,
Yep.
post COVID, a lot of kids have been struggling
Yep.
mentally. So we're just telling them, hey, it's okay to not be okay. If you need help, let us know. And we have these current football players, speaking of a guy like Jalen Hyatt. Jalen
Mhm.
Hyatt was one of our football coaches during our camp season, and he did a tremendous job during the summer, not just showing kids how to play the wide receiver position, but just engaging with these kids, giving them a hug, giving them a high five, letting them know that he cares about them
Yep.
off the field. And when a kid, you know, hears that from Jalen Hyatt,
Yep.
that's going to change a kid's mindset, man,
Yep.
to delete every negative thought, every negative opinion that he has heard from any other person, and think that he can reach for the stars in sports and life and in school. And that's what we're doing. And man, we have changed so many lives, saved so many lives, and helped so many kids from Middle Tennessee, West Tennessee to East Tennessee. If anybody wants to get involved with our organization, you can send us an email at legendsoftennessee.org. We will be traveling in February with the
Nice.
current players and the former players again, and we'll be working all the way into July, working with kids.
Nice. That's awesome, Juice, man. I'm gonna come out and see you, and hopefully I'll run into you in one of these games
Yeah, where are you
coming up too,
located,
man.
man?
I'm
Where
here
you
in
located?
Knoxville. I'm back in Knoxville, so
Okay, yeah, man. I
yeah,
always give different podcasts and different people in the media world an opportunity to get some content. So if you ever want to
yep,
come out to a camp,
yeah,
shoot me a message. I'll get you a media pass
yeah.
created, and you can interview all the guys, man. We'll
I
love
would
to have
love
you
to,
out.
man. I would love to. I'd love to come out and hang out with you too, because I love what you're doing, and I
Thank
certainly
you.
appreciate you helping these kids
Yeah.
out.
And we do different fundraisers. We got a big fundraiser coming up for nonprofits called Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday, that's December 1st. But just want to give thanks to the Tennessee fans that bought our VFL Legend cigars. We
Yeah,
released some cigars going right after the Florida game,
yeah,
anticipating the Bama win.
yeah,
And that helps us fundraise to make sure that we can get those kids in camps, make sure we have t-shirts, food, travel arrangement for coaches, and make sure we have a great weekend in these communities. So Vol Nation, y'all really showed up and showed out with those cigars, and saw a ton of people smoking those cigars after the Alabama game. We supplied the team with over 120 cigars. I gave Peyton Manning a cigar.
yeah.
He
I saw
smoked,
that.
he smoked one with me. And hey, let's keep celebrating.
Yeah,
Let's keep
man.
Right.
celebrating Bama as long as we need to. But
I'm gonna
let's
keep.
focus.
I'm gonna
Let's
keep it
focus on
winning and
that
getting more
Georgia. Yeah,
reasons to celebrate.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's focus on that Georgia game.
yeah. We'll get it
Let's
done,
focus
man.
on
Well,
that Georgia
hey,
game. If we beat Georgia, hey, we're gonna light up another one.
yeah. Well, hey, you celebrate this weekend, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Thank
and
you, thank you. I appreciate it.
you go enjoy yourself, and we'll hit you up when you get back, and I'll stay in touch with you, and I'll come see you and come to one of those camps and get it going.
All right, man. You're more than welcome. Y'all
All right,
take
All
care. I
right,
appreciate you reaching out to me. God
all right,
bless.
Juice. Thank you
Juice.
so much,
Thanks a
Bye
buddy.
bye.
lot. Congratulations.
All right. Wow, that was sweet, man. I
Yeah,
love
great
Juice.
guy.
He's a great guy, and I just wanted to let him tell his story a little bit about what he's doing now, because he's one of these guys that's stayed around in the community and continued to try and help others have success just like he did back in the day.
it means a lot coming from these guys because, like you said, a lot of these guys been there, done that, rose above it, and teach. They set example for these kids. I mean, we can talk. These guys can read about it in books and stuff but when you're actually getting it from the person if eye to eye, and he's talking with you, and maybe you're at a low moment, but he talks to you about it, and he tells you about his low moment. It means a lot to these kids. That's who they listen to.
Well, yeah, and these kids, especially the ones that are coming up that are highly recruited. Okay, well, they've got so many people standing around telling them what they want to hear, and they've got so many people pulling on them every which way. And
right.
You need people like Juice to tell them, what's going to happen, and what, give them, a little bit of an insight into how it's going to occur down the road so that they can see it from all angles and that they can map out what's best for them instead of just listening to what, all these voices that are coming from around the way. They get somebody that's been there, done that, and can tell them, the best way to go about the whole process so that they can be set up for success and not get in the wrong situation.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's always a tragedy when you hear about the guy who had his chance and then just kind of didn't get it done or listened to the wrong words or tried to help, guys from his old hometown and bring them along. And then it just becomes a huge problem. So, yeah, it's good that there's someone out there that's been there, done that, and can teach them the right way. We got a few minutes left. We got to get our picks for the week.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, you go first.
All right. I was 2-1 last week, which brings me to 10-8 on the year. So I'm going to give 6.5 points to Cleveland and go with Baltimore. I'm going to give 4.5 points to Washington and go with Green Bay. And I'm going to take 6.5 points from Cincinnati, and I'm going with Atlanta.
I have got Atlanta also in that game, so write me down for that one. I've also got the Packers, who are favored by 4.5, but I feel like they're going to get right this weekend. I mean, the Commanders sucked before Carson Wentz got hurt, and I feel like they're going to suck after. So I'm taking the Packers. I got the Falcons, and then I've also going to take the Giants. The Jacksonville Jaguars are actually favored by 3 points.
Yeah, I was looking hard at that game myself, but
I'm taking the Giants, man. I mean, hell, maybe they won't win, but I feel like they will. I'm gonna stick with them. I think they're on the winning way, and I feel like the Jaguars have taken some lumps the last few weeks. Everybody was ready to jump on the Jaguar bandwagon after those 2 games, those 2 wins, but it's hard to win down there after several seasons of losing, and I feel like the Giants have got things going the right direction.
Yeah, I think. Well, we talked about it. I think the Giants do have it. I think they finally got their coach, at least for the foreseeable future. Just like Robert Saleh, I think we're going to have some good times in New York City with football coming up for the next few years, as long as the health stays and as long as they stay on course. And I think they've got the right people, and it's nice to see the NFC East not be such a joke, because Philly is right now. Hands down the best team in football. Dallas is going to get Dak back, and they've got a great defense, and we'll see if that he improves their offense a little bit. And the Giants, hey, they're a feel-good story. And also, look at what New England did this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little shocked by New England there for a couple of weeks, but it looks like they're getting back to where they should be. And I think this brings up a great question and something that I wanted to hit on, but we never really got to. What do you do now if you're Bill Belichick? You got Mac Jones, who's only in his second year and hasn't knocked the world apart with his play, and at times earlier this year struggled mightily to even get the offense going at all. You bring in this kid who, would they draft him in the 6th, 7th round, maybe? Bailey Zappi, who, really wasn't expected to play this year, but he's worked his way up, got to the 3rd string position, went in when Brian Hoyer got knocked out, and has just looked good since getting there. And he's not setting the world on fire stats wise, but he's winning games. Do you take this kid out and put Mac Jones back in? or you keep riding the hot hand. I mean, I don't think you rush to get Mac Jones back on the field. What do you think?
I think we've seen it before. I think I remember back in Cleveland when that he benched Bernie Kosar, the hometown hero, for Vinny Testaverde because he thought Vinny Testaverde gave him a chance. People forget Drew Bledsoe was the number 1 overall pick, led New England to a Super Bowl, and when Brady was the hot hand, he benched Bledsoe. So he's about winning, and you sit there and you can say what you want about Bill Belichick. Is he cold-hearted? Well, you have to be in that business. But I mean, look at one thing that came out this weekend, and it's funny. Everybody, remember when everybody said, "Oh my God, he let J.C. Jackson get away"? Maybe he knew something we didn't know.
Yeah. Well, Stephon Gilmore, he let him go. Everybody was going nuts because he let Stephon Gilmore get out of town after he had won the Defensive Player of the Year award.
Lawyer Malloy early in the run. Ty Law. I mean, when it comes to making hard decisions, he will make the hard decision, and usually it works out for him.
Well, how can you take this kid out, man? Think about this last week. They're playing Cleveland. Bailey Zappi goes out 24-34, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns. They dropped 38 points on the Browns in Cleveland. Makes Jacoby Brissett look pedestrian at best. I just don't think you can take this kid out after what he's done. And this kid started out at a very, very small school. I believe it was an FCS school, and excelled there, threw for all kinds of yards and broke all these records. Then he transferred to Western Kentucky, which is a D1 program. Everybody's like, I don't know if he can do it here. Then he throws for 66 touchdowns and 6,000 yards at Western Kentucky. And then they're like, well, yeah, he did that, but he's not going to be able to make it in the NFL. And here he is throwing touchdowns in the NFL and winning football games for the New England Patriots. And I just think this is the kind of story that, Bill Belichick lives for. And the guy's won 324 games. He just passed George Halas on the all-time record. He knows how to win.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't be surprised if Zappi stays in there. I'd put it this way. There's no reason to rush Mac Jones back. We all know, high ankle sprains are tricky. He might not be ready for a few more weeks, or if at all this year. Who knows? So at least he's got his second quarterback. And it's not like you said, it's not like Mac Jones was setting the world on fire. He was a nice surprise last year, but he was still learning. And if Bailey Zappi turns out to be the guy that can take the Patriots to a higher level, Belichick's going to make the choice.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is it's not like he's been entrenched for 10 years in the Patriot way, getting it done, winning Super Bowls. He's never won anything. They made the playoffs last year, but let's be honest, that was more based on their defense and their running game. The one game, he threw it 3 times in the entire game, and they beat the Buffalo Bills. So I'm not ready to just hand him the quarterback of the year trophy. I mean, he's make him earn it, man. I mean, if he is better than Bailey Zappi, well, then, put him back in there. But I'm not so sure he is.
Well, before we go, the one thing I want to say, I am very scared for Tua this weekend. Yeah, I think he's coming back too early.
I do too. And I was the one that said I didn't think he should have been playing in that game versus Cincinnati. I didn't think that was a great idea. I saw him stagger like he did in that Bills game, and I was like, man, they just put him back in because they wanted to win. I didn't think that was in his best interest going back into the Bills game, and I certainly didn't think it was in his best interest to play 5 days later on Thursday Night Football, but they did it, and then he gets injured, and now I feel like they're rushing him back again, and I know he wants to play. He doesn't want to lose his job. He wants to, be recognized as a great quarterback. I get all that. He should want that, but he should also have people in his corner fighting for him and his health and his future. Because if he gets another concussion and gets knocked out and can never play again, well, then it doesn't matter and it's all for naught. So I'm not sure this is the best idea, and I'm really scared for him. and football in general, man. If we have another scene like we had last Thursday, I'm telling you, it's not going to be good for the league or for the game in general.
No, and this is where Robert Goodell should step in. Or Roger Goodell should step in.
Whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah, this is where he should step in and say, "Hey, wait a minute. I want him to come up to New York. We're gonna send him to a neurosurgeon up here to take a look at him."
Yeah, and supposedly he's seen, he's been seeing other doctors, and he's been, being interviewed by the Players Association, the league, the team, all this and that. But why not err on the side of caution?
Right.
I mean, we've seen this play out on national television twice in the last 4 weeks, where it's just been an ugly scene and a black eye for the league. Why rush him back to get him out on the field this week? I just don't understand it, and I just hope he's okay.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, thank you for Jabari Juice Davis coming in here and giving us a little bit of his time as he gets ready to go down the aisle this weekend. He's a great guest. What are you be doing on man coverage on Sunday?
We're going to be riding the Tennessee wave. I think we're going to have Chris Hannon on the show, who's another former Vol who played in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to try and get him on the show this weekend. If not, we'll find somebody. But I talked to Chris, and hopefully he's going to join us. But we're going to keep talking Tennessee Vols. Hell, why not? They beat the crap out of the Bama, the Bama's
Sabanites.
The Sabanites. The Bama has been the measuring stick for the rest of college football since Nick Saban got there.
Yeah.
And, they took them out. And as I said, I don't think Bama's going away. I think they still have a really good shot to win the West. And, hell, they may play Tennessee again. But that was a huge victory, and we're going to break it down even further on Sunday at main coverage.
Well, I was extremely jealous you were there, because that is one of those games that you look back on and say, "Hey, I was there."
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. I'll never forget in 2006 when I was in Columbus, when number 1 Ohio State played number 2 Michigan, and Troy Smith and the boys got it done 42-39. So a similar 3-point margin of victory. And that was one of the greatest games I've ever seen. And I'll never forget it. Running down the field, we tore up a piece of turf and had it growing in our backyard in a pot for the next 10 years. And I didn't run down on the field this time because I'm a little bit older than I was in 2006. Well, but I got to enjoy it up in the stands.
That's for sure. And they look kind of dangerous there down there in the field.
Yeah, I didn't want to run down there and get hit by the goalpost.
Here you go. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Thank you to Jabari. Nate, have a great weekend, and we will be back next week. The Safety and the Sportswriter. Take it easy, everybody.
Thanks.